Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the balance changes that Brawl Stars desperately need. I've not done this video in a while now, so I'm going to be looking at the buffs and the nerfs that Brawl Stars I feel like need to implement the next set of balance changes. So of course, before we jump into today's video, make sure you're using a create code in the shop. Normally greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's jump into today's video. Alright guys, so first and foremost, we're going to be looking at the nerfs which I think Brawl Stars need to implement with the next set of balance changes. First, we're going to look at Lola. So Lola is by far probably the most broken brawler in the game right now in terms of all trophy ranges. Right now, she's just so strong, and it all stems with her super. So the first thing I need to note with Lola, and a lot of people have been saying the same things, is this: you get so much value when you put the clone right on top of her. I just feel like you're near enough invincible when you have that clone on top of you, especially with the gadget as well. She has such a big shield with that gadget, and just overall, like, doubling the DPS, it's just way too much value. Like, I feel like Supercell tried to make it so Lola would be good and the clone would be put on like a separate lane and not literally put on top of her. So something needs to be done in that sense. Maybe lessen the damage, maybe lessen the HP, or something needs to be done with this. So that's gonna be Lola. Let's jump into the next one. All right guys, so jumping into the next nerf, which I believe needs to happen desperately, is Meg. So Meg right now in competitive and so many defensive maps is just way too strong. So again, like in the world finals, in terms of scrims, like a lot of the games would just literally be decided on whoever gets her mech first, and then you can just literally walk up to the wall, auto aim. You have 7,000 HP, you have a gadget that heals you up as well, and you also have a super which can one-shot so many different brawlers. So Meg is just so valuable right now inside of a meta. So first and foremost, I believe they need to nerf her star power. So having a star power lasts for 30 seconds, giving you that extra shield, I just think that's just way too valuable. Like her other star power is just basically unusable. So of course, probably just remove the 30 seconds, get it down to like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then she'll be a lot easier to kill once her mech is popped. And then there's also a few other things that you could also do. Obviously, I don't want to make her too weak. Maybe just make the mech just little bit less HP, maybe like 500 less HP or something like that. But for sure, she just has way too much pressure on the field. Something needs to be done about Meg. Alright guys, so jumping into the next nerf, which I believe needs to happen and has needed to happen with every single update really ever since her release, it is Belle. So Belle has been a top 5 brawler ever since her release. You guys probably think I'm a stuck record at this point because she's just been so strong for such a long time. Of course, she's not really like a toxic brawler, so maybe it's not at the top of Supercell's list, and I feel like I get the feeling that Supercell actually like Belle being this strong, because else she would have been nerfed a long time ago. Like, she only got like a few minor nerfs which didn't really do anything in terms of meta placing. She's always been top 5. She's always been one of those solid picks which can't really get counted by too many brawlers. So for me, I would actually nerf her in little ways, just because, again, like, obviously it must be some way healthy for Belle to be meta. So I'd actually nerf her gadget. I've spoke about this a few times, but again, I feel like it's just a little bit too toxic, just to get too much value, especially in game modes like Bounty. Like, I think of map Dry Season, for example. If you put traps and a few choke points, it's near enough impossible as the team that's actually losing to not go through those traps and then get killed because of how long the slow lasts. So I think just obviously nerfing the slow just a little bit might be a little bit helpful. And then in the long term, if you're really looking to remove Belle from the meta or just make her a lot weaker, I think that reload speed is just too much. Maybe just nerfing it like by 0.1 second might actually make the difference. Alright guys, so the next nerf I believe needs to happen with the update, it is Byron. So Byron has kind of been running wild in the meta for a few months now. It's just kind of slowly like power creeps up in the meta. He's not received like any buffs, he's received nerfs down the line, and he still just remains so strong. So again, I feel like it should only be like a small adjustment with Byron, because overall his mechanics pretty strong, but of course pretty balanced for me in my opinion. So I think the only thing that needs to change is just his base stats. Like in terms of damage, I just feel like it needs to be nerfed just a little bit in that department. Obviously that's going to really hurt his healing for his teammates as well. So just a little nerf to Byron should be enough to make him balanced. Alright guys, so jumping into the final nerf, which I believe needs to happen inside of the game. I don't think this is the main priority, but for me, I just found Buzz a little bit too toxic, especially with his stun duration. So with Buzz, I feel like he needs to get his super a little bit less. So you could do this by a few ways. You could do this by obviously like increasing the amount of punches it gets to get his super, or you could just make the natural charging from obviously circle radius to a little bit longer. For me, I just feel like you just cycle stuns way too much, and especially if you get that first stun with the first star power, you're going to be stunning them just like crazy. A lot of times you can't even get a shot off. So either decreasing the stun duration just a little bit, or doing that should be good enough as well. So also like a 2-in-1 here for the ending as well. I didn't really want to make like a separate one on this one because of course a lot of you guys don't really have the gears is, but I feel like, again, like the speed gear needs a nerf as well. So hopefully there will be some type of nerf for that speed gear. Alright guys, so now moving on to the buffs, which I believe need to happen inside of Brawl Stars. First off, we have Colette. So Colette has been power crept by a lot of different brawlers for a long time now. She used to be insane with like Byron inside of Heist. Like, she just used to be so good on like maps like Kaboom Canyon, Safe Zone. She just used to be so strong, but over time other brawlers have just got a lot better, and I just think her mechanics have just led her not to be the best, because a lot of the times you're not really going to be pulling out a Colette because she's only great against tanks. Unless you really want to hard counter tanks, a Colette's not going to be good at all. So for me, Colette can be buffed in a few ways. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts, because I don't think this conversations came up too much. Not too many people actually talk about Colette, and she only got picked once in the World Finals, literally once. One of the only few brawlers to only get picked that amount of times. So of course that's going to hint towards her needing a buff, because players do not feel like she's going to be good enough even against tanks. So yeah, she could be increased by a lot. Well, she could be buffed by a lot of different things. I think mainly for me, maybe like increase like the shield on her star power, or just her HP just a little bit. Alright guys, so jumping into the next buff, which I believe needs to happen in the next update, it is with Brock. So I bet you guys are just fed up with the amount of changes that are happening with Brock at the moment. He's had a lot of reworks, a lot of adjustments. He's been going from the best brawler in the game to the worst brawler in the game, and just so forth for like over a year now. So I feel like the main problem, again, it just relies on this gadget. Like, that gadget just gets so much value. I don't even know what it's called. I just call it the big rocket, because of just basically it being like unavoidable by the enemy. You're basically going to hit it every single time. It removes so much walls as well. I feel like this gadget just either needs to go, or just get completely reworked, or something like a big nerf to it, because I feel like Brock just won't be balanced because of this. And then again, for me, I just feel like his rework was really unjustified. I just feel like it completely changed the way Brock was played, and still even more so, like, it was the best brawler in the game because of how easy it was to hit those shots. And then they slowed down obviously his projectile speed, which again I just really didn't like. It's just a bit too slow for me. So I'll just revert all of this, change it to the old Brock. I really love that Brock. It took a lot of skill to use, but was also really satisfying. So maybe just increase his HP again, you know, increase his damage, revert back to his old ways, do something with his gadget. A lot of changes need to be made for the Brock to be as well as nice as he once was. Alright guys, so moving into the next nerf, which I believe needs to happen, it is with Mr. P. So Mr. P for a while now hasn't been strong in the meta, which I'm kind of happy about. A lot of people are happy about, but still, a brawler shouldn't be this bad in the meta. So for the World Finals, again, the stats, there's only 4 brawlers which weren't picked at all in the World Finals. I believe those are 8-Bit, Shelly, Ash, and Mr. P. So Mr. P is in need of a buff for sure. Not a single pro player picked him in the World Finals, so that's just obviously a telling story that he's not the strongest. So again, you got to be careful with Mr. P, because literally like a few buffs can put him at the top of the meta. So let me know again down in the comment section below what you'd actually do with Mr. P, because again, I don't want to buff him too much as he might be too strong. Maybe just increase his HP just a little bit, his damage a little bit. There's not too many things he can do, in my opinion, to make him one of those balanced brawlers. But yeah, Mr. P has just been so bad in this meta. Okay, so next up on the buff list, we have Squeak. So Squeak, again, was only used once in the World Finals. I think this was by Zeta again. So with Colette and Squeak, I think that they were only used once by Zeta. I think they actually won with it, but Squeak, I feel like it's a little bit underrated, but even more so with gears right now, I feel like he's going to be pretty weak. So of course, he hasn't been good against aggro. There's a lot of speedy type brawlers in the meta right now. I can think of brawlers like Sandy, for example. They're just going to completely wreck Squeak in those 1v1 interactions. So Squeak, of course, needs a change. So for me, I think, again, I would like increase the damage by his base stats, because you know, 1,400 isn't really a lot without that star power, and I feel like you kind of need his star power to really get value out of him, because of the slow and the super. It's going to help you confirm the kills. So yeah, Squeak just been trashed for a while now. I think there can be multiple ways to buff him. Alright guys, so finally moving into the final balance change, which I believe needs to happen within inside of Brawl Stars. I feel like this one is a little bit biased, because I do like Griff. He's a really fun brawler, but for me, I feel like Griff just hasn't really found his place in the meta for a long time now. So in terms of competitive, he's only really used to really try and outpick their enemies. So Griff is basically like a counter to tanks, so you're only going to be using him to break open the map with his gadget, and then his super can be pretty devastating against tanks. But other than that, he's not really the strongest brawler. He's always just been okay. So for me, I would actually change him in a few ways. I feel like he actually gets his super too much. His super is one of the best inside of a game because if you're up close to enemies, you can literally spam like auto aim on a super, get a couple of more shots in, get your super back again. You can actually change supers really quickly. So I'd actually nerf that just a little bit. I know I'm talking about buffs, but obviously if you're buffing him in other categories, I feel like his super might be too strong. So of course be changing that one. But in terms of buffs, I think he needs something in change of his like speed in terms of his shot. Like his shots just come out way too slow for me. I feel like I'm like lagging or I've got delay when I'm actually shooting my shots, even with his star power. So this needs a little bit of a change, maybe increase his damage as well. But I know it's a fairly balanced brawler, so a lot of you guys might not agree with me with this one, but I just feel like ever since his release, it's just been a bit lackluster and definitely in need of a little bit of love. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know down in the comment section below what you'd do in terms of balance changes with the next update and what you think of my list. So of course I'm not going into like complete details in terms of stats with his changes because that's not my job. That is obviously the developer's job, so I don't know what kind of goes into it in terms of the stats. But I think overall, like the changes that I just suggested, definitely is going to make the game a lot better, a lot more fair. And yeah, again, I definitely would like a nerf for that speed gear. It's just so strong. Watching competitive and playing it right now, it's just so overwhelming. Definitely in need of like an emergency nerf, in my opinion. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.